Did you know that 4 simple daily habits are quietly stealing years from your life right now? Not smoking, not lack of exercise, but 4 common behaviors that millions of people over 60 practice every single day without realizing the damage they're causing. What makes these habits so dangerous is their invisibility. They don't announce themselves with dramatic symptoms. They work slowly, undermining your heart, your brain, your immune system, and your longevity one day at a time, until suddenly you're facing serious health problems that seem to come from nowhere. Most people blame aging itself for their declining health. They assume that feeling tired, forgetting things, getting sick more often, and losing vitality are inevitable parts of growing older. But research reveals something different. The way you age, how fast your body deteriorates, how long you live with energy and clarity versus struggling with disease and disability, depends far more on your daily habits than on your birth certificate. Change these 4 behaviors, and you can add not just years to your life, but life to your years. Let me be direct about what we're covering today. The first habit affects your metabolism and heart in ways that increase your risk of stroke and heart attack significantly. The second habit creates a toxic internal environment that accelerates every disease process in your body. The third habit disrupts the critical repair work your organs must perform each night, leaving you vulnerable to cognitive decline and cardiovascular damage. And the fourth habit, which most people dismiss as merely emotional, actually causes physical harm comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes every single day. Before we dive into these habits, I want you to understand why this matters so profoundly after 60. When you were younger, your body had tremendous resilience and reserve capacity. You could get away with poor habits because your systems could compensate and repair damage efficiently. But after 60, that margin for error shrinks dramatically. Your heart has less reserve strength. Your brain's repair mechanisms slow down. Your immune system weakens. Your hormones shift. This doesn't mean you're fragile or doomed. It means you need to be smarter and more intentional about how you live each day. Small habits that barely mattered at 40 can be the difference between thriving and declining at 70. The first habit that shortens life after 60 is skipping breakfast or eating your first meal too late in the day. And this one surprises most people because it seems so harmless. You might think that if you're not hungry in the morning, why force yourself to eat? Or perhaps you've heard about intermittent fasting and assume skipping breakfast is healthy. But for people over 60, this habit creates a cascade of metabolic and cardiovascular problems that substantially increase mortality risk. Your body operates on precise internal rhythms governed by an ancient biological clock. This clock expects food within an hour or two of waking because for thousands of years, humans ate in the morning after sunrise. When you skip breakfast, you're sending distress signals throughout your entire system. Your metabolism, which should be ramping up to provide energy for the day, instead shifts into a conservation mode that affects every organ. The immediate effect happens in your cardiovascular system. When your body doesn't receive morning fuel, it releases stress hormones, primarily cortisol and adrenaline, to mobilize stored energy. These hormones raise your heart rate and blood pressure. For older adults whose blood vessels are already stiffer and whose hearts work harder than they used to, this creates unnecessary strain. Studies tracking thousands of people over 60 found that regular breakfast skippers had a 43% higher risk of heart attack and stroke compared to those who ate breakfast daily. That's not a small difference. That's nearly half again as much risk from something as simple as skipping a morning meal. But the damage goes deeper than immediate cardiovascular stress. Skipping breakfast disrupts your insulin sensitivity and glucose metabolism. Your body becomes less efficient at processing blood sugar throughout the entire day. This leads to higher blood sugar spikes when you finally do eat, forcing your pancreas to work overtime producing insulin. Over months and years, this pattern creates insulin resistance, the precursor to type 2 diabetes. It also triggers chronic inflammation, which damages blood vessels, accelerates arterial plaque formation, and increases cancer risk. There's also what happens psychologically and behaviorally. When you skip breakfast, you typically become much hungrier later in the day. Most people compensate by overeating at lunch or dinner, often choosing higher calorie, higher fat foods because their bodies are desperate for energy. This creates wild swings in blood sugar and insulin that stress your metabolic system and lead to fat storage, particularly dangerous visceral fat around your organs. Let me tell you about Frank, 72, who never ate breakfast. He'd have coffee and maybe a small snack mid-morning, but his first real meal was lunch. Frank considered this normal and had done it for decades. But after a routine physical revealed elevated blood pressure, high blood sugar, and concerning inflammation markers, his doctor asked detailed questions about his eating patterns. When Frank mentioned skipping breakfast, his doctor explained that this single habit was likely driving multiple health problems. Frank was skeptical but agreed to try eating breakfast for 6 weeks. He kept it simple: oatmeal with nuts and berries or whole grain toast with avocado and an egg. Within a month, Frank's blood pressure readings improved noticeably. His energy levels stabilized throughout the day. After 3 months, his blood sugar and inflammation markers had dropped significantly. One habit change reversed multiple health problems. The science here is clear and consistent. Your metabolism needs to be activated properly each morning. Breakfast doesn't have to be large or elaborate, but it needs to contain protein, complex carbohydrates, and healthy fats to provide sustained energy and stabilize blood sugar. This combination signals your body that resources are available, allowing it to function optimally rather than operating in crisis mode. What should you do? First, commit to eating something within an hour of waking, even if you don't feel hungry. Your hunger signals have been suppressed by years of skipping breakfast, but they'll return once you establish a regular pattern. Second, make breakfast balanced. Avoid sugary cereals, pastries, or juice alone, all of which spike blood sugar without providing sustained nutrition. Instead, think eggs with vegetables, Greek yogurt with nuts and fruit, oatmeal with protein powder and berries, or whole grain toast with nut butter and banana. Third, prepare breakfast the night before if morning time is challenging. Overnight, oats, hard-boiled eggs, or prepared smoothie ingredients make healthy breakfast effortless. Fourth, if you've been practicing intermittent fasting and restricting eating to later hours, reconsider this for your age group. The research showing benefits of time-restricted eating was done primarily on younger people. For those over 60, regular morning eating supports metabolic health more effectively. And fifth, notice how you feel over several weeks of consistent breakfast. Most people report better energy, clearer thinking, more stable mood, and easier weight management. The second habit that quietly shortens life after 60 is living with constant stress and emotional tension. Now, everyone knows stress is bad for you, but most people dramatically underestimate just how physically damaging chronic stress is, especially in older adults. This isn't about occasional stress from life events. This is about the persistent, low-grade tension that many seniors carry every day. Worry about health or finances, unresolved family conflicts, loneliness, fear about the future, anger or resentment that never gets addressed, or just the accumulated emotional weight of decades of life experiences. Your body doesn't distinguish between physical danger and emotional stress. When you're chronically stressed, your nervous system stays in fight or flight mode, releasing a constant stream of stress hormones. These hormones, particularly cortisol, were designed for short-term emergencies, not long-term activation. When they stay elevated day after day, they cause devastating damage throughout your body. The cardiovascular effects are severe. Chronic stress keeps your heart rate elevated and your blood pressure high. It increases inflammation in your blood vessels, promoting arterial plaque formation. It makes your blood more likely to clot. For someone over 60 whose cardiovascular system is already working harder, chronic stress can be the factor that tips you from stable heart disease to heart attack or stroke. Research shows that people living with high stress levels have double the risk of major cardiac events compared to those with lower stress. Your immune system takes a direct hit from chronic stress. Cortisol suppresses immune function, making you more vulnerable to infections and reducing your body's ability to fight cancer cells. Stressed older adults catch more colds and flu, take longer to recover from illness, and show weaker responses to vaccines. They also experience more frequent flare-ups of autoimmune conditions and chronic pain. The brain suffers enormously from sustained stress. Cortisol is actually toxic to brain cells, particularly in the hippocampus, the area responsible for memory formation. Chronic stress physically shrinks this brain region, which explains why stressed people experience memory problems and difficulty learning new information. Stress also disrupts sleep quality, which compounds cognitive damage because your brain can't perform its nightly cleaning and repair processes effectively. Then there are the behavioral effects. Stress drives people toward unhealthy coping mechanisms. Overeating, especially comfort foods high in sugar and fat, drinking more alcohol, becoming sedentary, withdrawing socially, and neglecting self-care. Each of these behaviors creates additional health problems that compound the direct damage stress causes. Margaret, 76, lived with constant worry. She worried about her children, her grandchildren, her health, her money, world events, everything. She felt tense most of the time, slept poorly, and frequently felt her heart racing for no apparent reason. During a checkup for high blood pressure that wasn't responding well to medication, her doctor asked about her stress levels. Margaret admitted she felt stress constantly but didn't know what to do about it. Her doctor explained that no amount of blood pressure medication could fully counteract the effects of chronic stress on her cardiovascular system. Margaret needed to address the stress itself. Margaret started small. She began practicing slow, deep breathing for 5 minutes every morning and evening. She joined a senior centre book club, which gave her social connection and mental engagement. She started writing in a journal about her worries instead of ruminating on them endlessly. Most importantly, she had honest conversations with her adult children about things that had bothered her for years, clearing the air and releasing emotional burdens she'd carried too long. Over several months, Margaret's blood pressure came down. Her sleep improved. She felt calmer and more engaged with life. The physical changes came from reducing emotional stress. The challenge with stress is that many older adults don't realize how much tension they're carrying. It's become their normal state. They might not even identify themselves as stressed because they're not dealing with major crises. But that constant low-level worry, frustration, or sadness is enough to keep stress hormones elevated and damage accumulating. What can you do? First, honestly assess your stress level. Throughout the day, periodically check in with your body. Are your shoulders tense? Is your jaw clenched? Is your breathing shallow? These physical signs reveal emotional stress you might not consciously recognize. Second, practice active stress reduction daily, not just when you feel overwhelmed. This might include deep breathing exercises, gentle stretching or yoga, meditation or prayer, time in nature, listening to calming music, or any activity that genuinely relaxes you. The key is consistency. Daily practice rewires your nervous system over time. Third, address unresolved emotional issues. If you're carrying resentment, regret, or unprocessed grief, these create constant internal stress. Consider talking with a counselor, joining a support group, or having difficult but necessary conversations with people in your life. Emotional resolution is physical medicine. Fourth, cultivate sources of joy and meaning. Stress reduction isn't just about eliminating negatives, it's about creating positives. Engage in activities you genuinely enjoy. Spend time with people who lift your spirits. Pursue interests that give your life purpose and satisfaction. And fifth, recognize that managing stress becomes increasingly critical after 60. Your body can't buffer the effects of stress hormones the way it once could. Making stress reduction a daily priority isn't optional self-care. It's essential healthcare. The third habit that shortens life after 60 is staying up late and disrupting your natural sleep-wake rhythm. This goes beyond just not getting enough sleep. Even if you sleep a full 8 hours, sleeping from 1 in the morning until 9 creates very different biological effects than sleeping from 10 at night until 6 in the morning. The timing of your sleep determines whether your body can perform critical maintenance and repair work that happens only during specific nighttime hours. Your body operates according to a circadian rhythm, an internal 24-hour clock that evolved over millions of years to match the natural cycle of day and night. This rhythm controls not just when you feel sleepy, but when every organ system performs specific functions. During nighttime hours, particularly between 10 at night and 2 in the morning, your body shifts from daytime activity mode into deep repair mode. Your heart rate and blood pressure drop significantly, allowing your cardiovascular system to rest and repair. Your brain activates cleaning mechanisms that flush out toxic waste proteins. Your immune system produces infection-fighting compounds. Your liver performs intensive detoxification. Your digestive system repairs and regenerates tissue. But these processes only happen properly if you're in deep sleep during these specific hours. If you're still awake at 11 or midnight, these repair programs either don't run at all or run incompletely. It's like having a cleaning crew scheduled to work from 10 to 2, but you keep the building open and occupied during those hours. The cleaning doesn't get done, and over time, the building deteriorates. The cardiovascular damage from late sleep is particularly concerning for older adults. Studies show that people who regularly go to bed after midnight have significantly higher rates of high blood pressure, irregular heart rhythms, and heart disease, even when controlling for total sleep duration. Their hearts simply don't get the nightly rest and repair time they need. The blood pressure that should drop by 10 to 20% during nighttime sleep stays elevated, creating constant strain on the heart and blood vessels. Late sleep also disrupts hormone regulation in ways that accelerate aging. Cortisol, which should drop to its lowest levels around midnight, stays elevated in late sleepers, keeping the body in a stress state. Growth hormone, which repairs tissues and maintains muscle mass, releases primarily during early nighttime sleep, so late sleepers produce less of it. Melatonin, which does far more than just promote sleepiness, it's a powerful antioxidant and anti-inflammatory compound, doesn't release properly when you expose yourself to light late at night. The metabolic consequences are serious. Late-night eating, which often accompanies staying up late, is particularly harmful because your body's insulin sensitivity drops after about 8 in the evening. Food eaten late causes larger blood sugar spikes and gets stored as fat more readily, particularly dangerous visceral fat around your organs. This pattern significantly increases risk of diabetes and heart disease. Cognitive effects accumulate over time. Your brain's waste-clearing system works most efficiently during the early hours of sleep. Late sleepers who miss this window show greater accumulation of toxic proteins associated with Alzheimer's disease and cognitive decline. They also experience more memory problems, slower thinking, and difficulty concentrating during the day. Robert, 74, considered himself a night owl. He routinely stayed up until midnight or 1 in the morning watching television or reading, then slept until 8 or 9. He got roughly 8 hours of sleep, so he thought he was fine. But Robert struggled with high blood pressure despite medication, felt foggy and tired during the day, and seemed to catch every illness going around. His doctor explained that Robert's late sleep schedule was preventing his body from performing essential nighttime repairs. Robert was skeptical, but agreed to try shifting his schedule earlier for 1 month. He started preparing for bed at 9:30, kept his bedroom dark and cool, and aimed to be asleep by 10:30. The adjustment was difficult for the first week, but then Robert started noticing changes. His blood pressure readings improved. His mental clarity during the day increased noticeably. He felt more energetic and got sick less often. His body was finally getting the properly timed sleep it needed. What should you do? First, establish a consistent bedtime, ideally between 10 and 11 at night. Consistency matters enormously because your circadian rhythm thrives on regularity. Going to bed at roughly the same time every night, even on weekends, helps synchronize your entire system. Second, create a wind-down routine starting at least an hour before bed. Dim lights throughout your home after 8:30 or 9. Light exposure, especially blue light from screens, suppresses melatonin production and signals your brain to stay awake. If you must use devices, use blue light blocking glasses or screen filters. Third, Make your bedroom conducive to early sleep. Cool temperature around 65 to 68 degrees, completely dark, using blackout curtains or an eye mask, and quiet or with white noise if needed. Fourth, avoid caffeine after noon and alcohol in the evening. Both interfere with sleep architecture and prevent you from reaching the deep sleep stages where repair work happens. Fifth, get bright light exposure, preferably natural sunlight, during morning hours. This helps set your circadian clock properly, making it easier to feel sleepy at the right time in the evening. And sixth, be patient with yourself. If you've been a late-night person for years, shifting your schedule earlier takes time. Your body will resist initially, but within 2 to 3 weeks of consistent early bedtime, your natural rhythm will adjust and you'll start falling asleep more easily. The fourth habit that quietly shortens life after 60 is living without meaningful social connection and allowing isolation to become your normal state. This habit receives far less attention than diet or exercise, but the research is unequivocal. Chronic loneliness and social isolation are as damaging to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes every day. For older adults, social disconnection is often gradual and therefore not recognized as the serious health threat it actually is. Humans evolved as deeply social creatures. Your nervous system, immune system, and even cardiovascular system developed expecting regular social interaction. When you're socially connected, engaged with others, having conversations, sharing experiences, your body operates differently at a biological level than when you're isolated. Social connection triggers the release of beneficial hormones like oxytocin, which reduces stress and promotes healing. It activates brain regions involved in reward and motivation. It regulates your immune system, keeping inflammation at healthy levels. When you lack social connection, your body interprets this as a danger signal. From an evolutionary perspective, being alone meant vulnerability to predators and inability to survive. Your biology hasn't caught up to modern life where you can be physically safe while socially isolated. So isolation triggers a chronic stress response. Cortisol stays elevated, inflammation increases, your immune system weakens. Your cardiovascular system stays in a state of heightened alert with elevated heart rate and blood pressure. The physical health consequences are measurable and severe. Socially isolated older adults have a 50% higher risk of early death from all causes. They have higher rates of heart disease, stroke, and heart attack. They experience more frequent and more severe infections. They show faster cognitive decline and higher rates of dementia. They have more falls and more difficulty recovering from illness or surgery. These aren't just correlations. Studies show direct biological mechanisms. Isolation causes measurable changes in gene expression related to inflammation and immune function. The mental and emotional effects compound the physical damage. Isolated people experience higher rates of depression and anxiety. They lose motivation and sense of purpose. They often neglect self-care, eating poorly, skipping medications, or avoiding medical appointments. This creates a downward spiral where poor health leads to more isolation, which worsens health further. What makes this particularly insidious for people over 60 is how gradually isolation can develop. Retirement removes daily workplace interaction. Friends and family members move away or pass away. Mobility limitations make it harder to get out. Hearing or vision problems make social situations more difficult. Pride prevents many older adults from reaching out when they feel lonely. They don't want to burden others or admit they're struggling. So they withdraw, convincing themselves they're fine alone while their health deteriorates silently. Helen, 79, lived alone after her husband died. Her children lived in other states and visited occasionally. Helen had a few friends but saw them infrequently. She spent most days alone, watching television, doing puzzles, going through routines without much human interaction. Helen noticed she felt tired all the time, caught frequent colds, and felt increasingly sad, but attributed this to aging and grief. During a checkup, her doctor asked about her social life. Helen admitted she was quite isolated, but said she was used to it. Her doctor explained that isolation was likely contributing significantly to Helen's declining health and mood. The doctor encouraged Helen to actively seek connection, not just wait for it to come to her. Helen initially resisted, feeling it was too much effort. But she finally joined a senior centre and forced herself to attend their lunch program twice a week. She started volunteering at a local library one afternoon a week. She reconnected with old friends and made it a priority to have coffee or phone conversations regularly. The changes in Helen's health were remarkable. Her energy increased. She stopped getting sick as frequently. Most noticeably, her mood lifted. She felt engaged with life again. The simple act of regular social connection had triggered biological changes that medications couldn't provide. What can you do? First, honestly assess your social connection. How many meaningful conversations do you have in a typical week? How often do you interact with people beyond brief transactional exchanges? If you're going days without substantial social contact, you're at risk. Second, make connection a priority equal to diet and exercise. Schedule social activities the way you'd schedule doctor appointments. Join groups, book clubs, walking clubs, volunteer organizations, religious communities. The specific activity matters less than the regular interaction. Third, reach out proactively. Don't wait for others to contact you. Call friends and family. Invite someone for coffee. Attend community events, even if you have to push yourself initially. Fourth, use technology thoughtfully. Video calls with distant family members provide meaningful connection. But passive social media scrolling doesn't count as real interaction and can actually increase feelings of isolation. Fifth, recognize that quality of connection matters more than quantity. One genuine friendship where you can be authentic and vulnerable is worth more than dozens of superficial acquaintances. Cultivate relationships where you can truly share yourself and feel heard and valued. And sixth, if mobility or health issues limit your ability to get out, bring connection to you. Invite people to visit. Join online communities focused on your interests. Participate in virtual classes or discussion groups. Connection doesn't require physical presence, but it does require genuine interaction and engagement. Now, I want to address something crucial that connects all four of these habits. They're not just individual risk factors. They interact and amplify each other. When you skip breakfast, your body experiences metabolic stress, which increases overall stress levels and disrupts sleep, which makes you more tired and isolated, which leads to more poor eating choices. When you're chronically stressed, you sleep poorly, which weakens your immune system and cardiovascular health, which makes stress feel more overwhelming. When you sleep late, your hormones and mood are disrupted, making it harder to manage stress and maintain social connections. When you're isolated, you have less structure and motivation to maintain healthy routines around eating and sleep. These habits form a web where each one makes the others worse. But here's the powerful truth. The opposite is also true. Positive changes in one area support improvements in all the others. When you start eating breakfast regularly, you have more stable energy, which reduces stress and improves sleep quality. When you manage stress better, you sleep more soundly, which gives you energy for social activities. When you sleep at appropriate times, your mood and motivation improve, making it easier to eat well and connect with others. When you have regular social connection, you feel more purpose and structure, which supports all your other healthy habits. This means you don't have to fix everything at once. You can start with the habit that feels most manageable and let that success create momentum for other changes. Maybe eating breakfast is easiest to implement. Start there. Or perhaps joining one social group feels doable. Begin with that. As you experience the benefits from one change, you'll find energy and motivation to address the others. What I want you to do right now is choose one habit to focus on for the next 2 weeks. Just one. Write it down specifically. Not I'll eat better, but I will eat a protein-rich breakfast within 1 hour of waking every day. Not I'll be less stressed, but I will practice 10 minutes of deep breathing every morning and evening. Not I'll sleep better, but I will be in bed with lights out by 10:30 every night. Not I'll be more social, but I will call a friend. Or family member 3 times this week, and attend one social activity. Make your commitment concrete and trackable. Tell someone about it for accountability. Mark it on your calendar. Track your progress daily. After 2 weeks, assess what changed. How do you feel physically? How's your energy? Your mood? Your health markers if you're tracking things like blood pressure or blood sugar? Most people notice significant improvements in just 2 weeks when they address even one of these foundational habits. Then, once that first habit is established and feels automatic, add another. Build your healthy habits one at a time, creating a foundation that supports longevity and vitality. This isn't about perfection. Some days will be harder than others. What matters is the overall pattern and your commitment to keep returning to these behaviors even when you slip. Remember that you're not fighting against aging itself. You're fighting against habits that accelerate aging unnecessarily. The goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to live well for as long as you live, with energy, mental clarity, emotional balance, and physical health that let you enjoy your life and relationships fully. These 4 habits, eating breakfast, managing stress, sleeping at appropriate times, and maintaining social connection, are foundational to that goal. They cost nothing. They require no prescription. They're entirely within your control. Every morning when you wake up, you have a choice about how you'll treat your body that day. Will you fuel it properly? Will you protect it from chronic stress? Will you give it the properly timed rest it needs? Will you connect it with other humans in meaningful ways? These daily choices accumulate into weeks, months, and years of either vitality or decline. Your future health is being written right now by what you do today and tomorrow and the day after. If this information resonated with you, share it with others in your life over 60. These habits affect millions of older adults who simply don't realize that small daily behaviors are determining how long and how well they'll live. Knowledge is only powerful when it leads to action, so take that first step today. Your body will respond, and that response will motivate you to continue building the life of health and vitality you deserve. You have more control over your longevity than you think, and it starts with these foundational daily choices.